Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Trudy Vysotsky and I'm very happy to be sharing with you on this great topic, communication. Let's face it, it often is one of the areas where the words misunderstood, misunderstanding, I could have said that, I should have said that, why didn't I say that, why didn't I stop myself from saying that, all come into play. It is a diverse topic, it is a complex topic, and I've been teaching and sharing in communication arena for almost 2 decades. So I love this topic and I wanted to provide you with a brief overview today on just a couple of things that you can start to take into consideration as part of learning more about this topic, and also, I guess, a few tips and suggestions for you to put into practice. Now, with any training or any workshop that you watch, I always take notes. Now, the reason I do that is because a two-part. One is there are sometimes some aha moments I have while I'm sitting there listening to someone else. So it's always good to have a notepad and pen, and if you get any aha moments, they may not even be related to what I'm talking about today, write them down. The second part is I always like to take action. So I'm not one of these people that watches a lot of workshops and webinars and then doesn't do something with the information. I actually am really effective with my time, much better than I used to be. So what I do is if I take the time to invest to listen or to watch a workshop or a webinar or something, I always have an action point. So at the end of this, I suggest that maybe you consider taking some real action in an area that I raised today that will support you in your communication journey. Now, no matter how long I've been doing this for, I'm continually on a learning, growing, evolving journey. So I'm always learning myself how to continually improve my communication. So for me, I think it's something that you don't just master now, because every different situation has a different reason that you may need to change and adapt your communication. So let's get started and enjoy. So you may have heard this famous quote by Jim Rohn that 85% of your success in life will come from your ability to communicate effectively with other people. Now, no matter where you are at in your journey, I'm sure that you can appreciate the diverse in experiences, interpersonal relationships, business relationships, and how we communicate with different scenarios. So, I really agree with this quote. I think it's a very good quote. So, I've been running workshops, I think I lost track, but about 200 different workshop topics. But there is one number one question I get asked at every single workshop I attend. And the question is, how can I improve my relationship? How can I improve my parenting skills? Or how can I improve the behavior of my children? How can I improve my sales? How can I improve my business? Now, that is the overarching question that I get asked. So, communication is not just relevant to one area of your life, it's relevant to all facets of your life. And I think that that's why, if anyone ever came to me and asked how can they improve an area of their life, I would go back to communication, effective communication, the ability to be able to be flexible in your communication. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, because it is a really important topic. Now, the mind is a complex, beautiful thing, and we're not going to go into a lot of detail today because I want to really keep this brief. But I want you just to perform a little exercise so that you can yourself see how interesting the mind is, just by a little simple exercise. So what I want you to do is, first of all, I want you to read out aloud the actual wording that is up on the screens. For example, so I'd go yellow, blue, orange, black, red, green, purple, yellow, red, orange, green, black, blue, red, purple, green, blue, orange. Okay, so that's quite easy. So do that. And then what I want you to do is I actually then want you to read the color, not the wording. So for instance, you'd go green, red, blue, yellow, blue, black, red, you know, and reading through in that way. So give yourself a moment, and you can always pause this video just to run through and do that little exercise. And just notice the difference between the first way of doing it, which is just reading the word, and the second way, which is actually reading the colour, not the word. So how did you go with that? It's fascinating, isn't it? Because the left brain and the right part of the brain are in conflict. One's wanting you to read the word and the other one's saying, no, look at the colour. So again, very brief overview, but you can see in this particular example, and I'm sure you've got many of your own, the mind has an ability to really be utilised to our best advantage, or it can limit us in different ways. And one of the best things we can do is understand more about how our mind works. So these are some 3 keys that I believe are important to success in communication. One is have an understanding. We are all different. The way that we process information is different. The way that we perceive information is different. Our experiences are different. And the way that I guess we filter and react to circumstances are different, because they're really based on your own personal individual experience. No matter whether you were to grab a whole heap of siblings that were raised by the same people in the same household and spoken to in the same manner, you'd still find that all of those individuals still have a different perspective on life. And I'm not going to go into it in this particular very short tutorial, but again, just understanding that we are all different in the way that we process information. Now, people are going to say, okay, well, you're keeping that really short. Can you give us one bit of information that might be helpful? So I want to give you this bit of information because it was really useful to a lot of people in my workshops. And that is that one little way that we are different is that we process and access information at different rates, and also at different chunks of information. So let me give you an example. I've worked in government before where I've had to be very detailed. I've had to have budget reports. I've ran corporate high-level events. So I've had to be really detailed, have a lot of logistics. But at the same time, I've also had times where I've actually been really big picture. I've actually just wanted to have an overview of what's going on. So I've had to manage a lot of projects, but I really haven't gotten down into the detailed parts. It's really more of an overview that I've had of particular multiple projects that I've worked on. Now, if you were to ask me, which do I prefer? I would say that although I can do both and have proven that I can do both, I much prefer big picture discussions, big picture information rather than going into details. Now, why is this important? It's important to understand this because I ran a training session once and there was 30 people in the room, and I gave them some examples and asked them to put up their hands on whether they liked big picture information, just a few phrases. Say, for example, if you were sitting there and someone gave you a dot point of information. It was really brief, short, but it was just an overall view. And then someone sat down and gave you a lot of really technical, precise, accurate information. Which one do you prefer? Now, in this particular training workshop, there were 30 people in this room. They all worked for the same organisation, and 28 put their hands up and said they were big picture. So 2 were detailed people. And one of the fascinating things I thought in this workplace is out of the entire workshop, this probably was the most valuable to those 2 people and the 28, because what they found is the gentleman came up afterwards, one of the 2 people, and he said, Trudy, you know what I found fascinating about this? This actually probably summarised why I actually really struggled at university to maintain friendships. It really has become apparent in this workplace even that while everyone else is sitting around the table in the morning when we first get in, talking about their weekend, everyone asks each other, but no one asks me. And I said, I really think that in communication, we have to learn to respect each other's ways of processing and communicating. But in this particular case, just even him being aware of it, and even the 28 other people that are big picture being aware of it, is that hopefully they were able to, and I did hear that they were able to learn how to respect each other's way of communicating. Because in this case, the 28 people were isolating or really ostracizing the 2 people that went into a lot of detail. So rather than saying, how was your weekend? If they went into a lot of detail, people would just blank over and, roll their eyes and walk away. So they just learned not to ask them. So again, there is no right or wrong way. We process information differently, and we also are able to take on different amounts of information. Some of us do it quickly, some of us do it slowly, some of us want more detail, some of us prefer less detail, and there's every other implication in between. But this just gives you a little bit of an idea. So just ask yourself right now, although you may do both, which one do you prefer? And maybe once you've identified that, take into consideration the people that you're around, the ones that you actually enjoy interacting with. Do you notice that they might have a similar style of communication to you? And maybe do you actually avoid discussions or interactions with people who have a different style? Because the aim is for us to learn how to respect healthy, effective communication for all parties to get the best outcome for everyone. So ultimately, just keep that in mind, that there are many different aspects to communication, but this is one that you can take away. I had a guy that said, oh, I can't be around my mother-in-law anymore because she goes into so much detail. And I said, okay, well, it's up to you to learn how to interact with that and, and really maybe draw her back into some sort of sequence that also allows her to have her discussion, but also supports the way that you're able to listen rather than you walking off or whatever it might be. So there you go. That's one little action that you can take, is identify right now, what are you, big picture or details? Again, you can be both, but which one are you primarily, and how do you interact with people that are different to you? Because the aim is to learn how to do that in a more effective way, particularly for those people that are parents. Sometimes I find in my parenting workshops, it's called conscious parenting, and the aim is to teach people to be more consciously aware of the way that they behave, the way that they listen. And people will say, oh, I can't be bothered, he's talking too much. And I'll say, okay, hang on a minute. We don't want to have judgment here. We want to have empathy and understanding. So take this information away, write it down, and keep an eye out for people that are details or big picture, and just, again, have a level of acceptance and understanding. Number 2, I guess, going back to the quote earlier from Jim Rohn, I mean, really, we do need to master our communication skills. And one of those ways to do that is to be flexible and adaptable, because when you're interacting with other people, you're going to need to consider the style of communication that they need. I'll call it this old paradigm. People used to say, show people what they need to buy, but it's not really about what they need to buy, whether it's a discussion in a relationship or a purchase in a sale. It's show people in a way that they actually are able to take on that information. So being adaptable means considering what is your outcome and then adapting your communication to suit that particular style. So as I said, again, in future tutorials, we'll be talking more about this, but this is just a very brief one, just to keep in mind being flexible and adaptable. And I guess the only way that you can do that is number 3, which is to know thyself. To know yourself. How do you communicate to people? Who do you enjoy communicating with, and who don't you enjoy communicating with? And why? Why are you able to communicate more with others than some others? So again, self-assessment. For me, I really believe that we need to remain more self-aware of what's going on. Just always looking at ways that we can improve. And that requires a bit of a humble nature, being able to pull yourself up and say, oh, actually, you know what, that person didn't like the way I said that, or didn't understand what I said. How can I change that? How can I modify my communicating style to suit so that we have the best outcome for all parties? So know thyself is a really important thing, not just for communication, but every level of growth and evolving along your journey. So I guess people ask me the next question is, I'm sitting there, I'm listening to someone, and they always say or ask me, "Are you really listening to me?" Look, let's face it, we live in a very busy world. We live in a very distracted world. A lot of people have their phones on them, 24/7. They're looking at their phones. They're constantly distracted. So a lot of times people find that they can communicate better with you if you're in an active listening state. So there's two things. One is try and put away any distractions that you might have. You can live without your phone unless you're on a pager or there's an emergency situation. And secondly, rather than be preparing yourself to speak, active listening requires you to actually maybe have an interest in what people are saying, and actually acknowledging and staying connected to that person as they speak. So just ask yourself, on your new normal day-to-day communication, are you actively listening, or are you actively looking to respond to a situation, and are you distracted, or are you fully present in that moment? So I suggest that you self-assess regularly. That's one of the best ways to actually be able to implement and introduce new changes. Now, we have a lot of patterns, a lot of behaviors, a lot of things that we've been doing for a long time. And in order to change those, if we want to be more effective, now we don't need to change them. We can keep doing exactly the same thing that we've been doing for a long time. But if we positively want to change and improve ourselves, one of the best things to do, as I said before, is to take action. So writing down some of the interactions that you have, and reflecting back on your communication. Do you have a pattern of behaving or reacting in a certain situation on a regular basis? So again, sit down with yourself and start to assess, what are you currently doing that isn't working? Are you having the same discussion with the same people? A lot of times people do that with family. They might go and visit their family on say for instance, a holiday or a particular function, and they're having the same disagreements they've been having for 10 years. And I say, why do you do that to yourself? And why do you do that to your family member? Have you ever sat down and asked yourself, is there something better I could be doing? Is there a better way of responding rather than just reacting to the same conversation and just playing a continual loop, which is not satisfying for anyone? So another way, as I said, is just practice active listening. And one of the best ways to do that is to just learn how to pause before you speak. Now, if you're a fast processor like me, as you can tell, I speak quite fast. So I have to remain self-aware to slow down. So for me, I had to actually really, really create a pause section when people were talking, because I'm very happy to actively listen, but sometimes I'd want to interrupt and say something. It could be the Greek in me, we just jump in there, we have continual dialogue with each other. But no, seriously though, again, keep in mind your audience, and if you can, pause before you speak and learn to respond and not to react. In future tutorials, I'm going to talk more about the subconscious mind, and a lot of us are on autopilot. We're reacting, we're reacting, and we're not responding. Responding means you take the time to consider what you're about to say. Reacting is just saying the first thing that comes to mind. Now let's all put our hands and feet up if we've actually had hindsight where we've thought, oh, I shouldn't have said that. So again, we're human. We're on a continual journey of evolving. So let's not beat ourselves up on it, but let's maybe consider doing something different so we can get a better result. Now, Dale Carnegie, love this person. Now, the sweetest sound to a person is the sound of their own name. Now, I've known about this quote for years, and but it really came true to me, really profound, when I was in Bali a couple of years ago. And I was walking on the beach, and a lady had a hat on, and she came running up to me, and she started pointing to her hat, and she was saying, "My name is Sammy. What's your name?" Now, of course, I said, "Oh, my name's Trudy." And she kept repeating my name over and over again. And she was saying, "Trudy, would you like to buy this? Trudy, where are you going for dinner? Trudy. And she just kept repeating my name. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, I've been teaching and practicing behavioural psychology for like 15 years. And I think she's pulling the wool over my eyes right before my eyes. And so anyway, you know, I sat there and chatted to her for a moment and I walked off. And, you know, an hour or so later, she's yelling out, Trudy, Trudy. And I'm looking around because I'm fascinated, thinking, oh, is someone else visiting Bali from Australia that I might know? But it's the same lady, it's Sammy. And I started to get a feeling, well, not a feeling, I realized that a lot of the people on that beach were doing exactly the same thing. So I'm sure that someone had been teaching them some very good techniques about using people's names as a way of building rapport and gaining some sort of connection with them. And it worked. I bought so many things that I didn't need. Now, so as I said before, you know, be fully present when communicating with people. You know, it requires you to have active listening, but also just to acknowledge that you're actually involved in the conversation in some way. So I really do believe that this is something that has eroded over the last 5 years. Wherever you go, people are on their phones all the time. And so when you can be around people and be fully present, for a lot of people, it's a new discovery. And I think that you can have much better relationships with people when you're able to do that. So I guess in summary, you know, what I suggest you do is listen more and overall be authentic. You know, people pick up what I call the BS filter very easily nowadays. There are so many people that have strategies and, you know, they want to sell you this and they might message you somewhere and they want to communicate something to you because their strategy is to sell you something. And there's not a lot of people that are being as authentic as they could be or should be. For me, I think authenticity is really important because, again, you stand out when you're authentic. Number 3, practice adapting your communication styles, particularly if you've been communicating a certain way to certain people or in a certain situation and it's not working. Consider doing something different. Doing something different is better than doing the same thing over and over again. Always assess yourself. And number 5, adjust and repeat. That's what I do all the time. I'm not perfect. I'm continually, as I said, growing myself and learning, and put me in different situations. I will do all of these. I'm always authentic, and I make sure that I'm always practicing self-awareness, considering what I could do better, how I could improve, not looking to partake in a competition or to point blame at others. It's more about me wanting to grow as a person. So I really hope that that has given you a brief overview on just something that you can do a little bit different. Practice self-awareness. Go out there and find out, are people that you're communicating at the moment, are they people that want just an overview, a big picture, or are they people that want a lot of details? It can be really fun. Communication is really a great way to interact with other people, and it will improve your personal and professional life. So just take note of what's happening within you and around you. Now, feel free to go and grab our personal and business development resources. We've got lots of free stuff on our website at wholesire.com. I think we've got, from memory, about 19 different free resources on there. Go and grab whatever you like, and feel free to connect on our social media, on our YouTube channel, and look forward to sharing more with you about this fantastic topic about communication. Much love from me to you, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon. Bye for now.